So I just finished recording one of the creepiest stories I think I've ever translated, and I swear, I could kind of feel something watching me in the room. So before we dive into them, it's snack time, because today's horror session is powered by a surprise package. My TokyoTreat and Sakuraco boxes have arrived. 2 monthly Japanese snack boxes that bring Japan's wildest flavors and most beautiful traditions straight to your doorstep. Okay, let's start with TokyoTreat. This month's theme is Harajuku Snack Venture, and this box is stacked with snacks as bold as Harajuku's fashion. Just take a look at this. Cookies and cream Kit Kat? J-chan? Hi, nani ga suki? Cookies and cream yorima anatta. I'm sorry about that. But seriously though, these Kit Kats are insane. Layers of white chocolate, crunchy cookie bits, pure bliss. They've also got a seafood and veggie ramen, so flavorful it makes editing horror stories at 2 a.m. feel like a cozy dinner break. And these salted lemon pretzel sticks, perfect with a cold beer. Each box comes with this gorgeous cultural guide. You'll see different pages throughout this video. It's got all the allergy information, snack facts, some fun reads about Japan's snack history and regional treats too. You can learn about Harajuku's street culture while sampling Kirby's crazy gum mix, or fruity fizzy gummies, or garlic potato crisp, or a happy Harajuku choco cake, or maybe even trying the DIY ice cream kit. Look at all that. So if you've ever wanted to taste Japan or need a gift for someone who's interested too, you can get one with my exclusive discount code, JNightmares, by using the link below. Join me for a little snack adventure of your own and experience Japan from the comfort of home. And if you're more into traditional Japanese tea snacks, Sakuraco is the perfect pairing. Think wagashi, mochi, and beautiful regional sweets. I had some of the tea and snacks from last month's box while scripting this. It was pretty relaxing, I have to say. If you've never heard of Sakuraco, it's this beautifully curated monthly box of traditional Japanese snacks and tea, each one made by local artisan makers from all across Japan. We're talking mochi, dorayaki, manju, and even an exclusive piece of Japanese tableware in every box. And this month's theme is Mount Fuji Summertime, a tribute to Japan's most iconic natural symbol. So you'll be getting treats inspired by the regions Mount Fuji watches over, like the Muscat Cognac Jelly, the Mount Fuji Jelly, and the Shizuoka Green Tea Cookie. My personal favorite, that nori wasabi arare, it hits with this ping of wasabi heat and then it melts into this salty seaweed umami taste. It's absolutely unreal. The matcha genmaicha in this box took me right back to Japan, pairing Hokkaido roasted brown rice with Shizuoka matcha. It's earthy, rich, and calming. I had it with a snack on this Mount Fuji ceramic dish, which has this absolutely beautiful hokusai wave design from ukiyo-e. It's dramatic, elegant, and honestly just a really cool thing to own. I really love these boxes. They're like a little reminder of my time in Japan and a reason to plan my next trip. So if you're looking for a thoughtful gift or just want to bring a little taste of Japan into your daily life, this is it. Use my code JNightmares to get $5 off your first Sakuraco box or your first TokyoTreat box. Thank you TokyoTreat and Sakuraco for being a constant sponsor on this channel and sponsoring the video. And with no further ado, tonight we're heading into Tokyo after dark for a collection of real ghost stories from the city that never truly sleeps. And where better to begin than right in the heart of it all, Harajuku, just as our sponsors TokyoTreat suggested. Apologies if this is the wrong place to post this, but I wanted to share something creepy that happened to me. It was around September of last year, roughly 6 months after I moved to Tokyo from Osaka for work. I landed a job and rented a small 1-room apartment, a 1K, in Harajuku. It was a relatively new building, nothing fancy, but clean, quiet, and close enough to my office. The neighborhood around Harajuku Station feels different at night. During the day it's all noise and color, shops blasting music, tourists taking selfies under the Takashita Street sign, but past midnight it shifts. The side streets are really quiet, and the lights of the boutiques and cafes are shut off, and the alleyways are deep, and the air is still. I was living in a building tucked behind a convenience store, about a 10-minute walk from the station. It felt like a decent place. I was glad to have something that felt mine after relocating. One night, I was sleeping soundly when I was jolted awake by the sound of a voice. A woman's voice, hoarse and strained, groaning like she was in pain. Atsui! Atsui! Hot. It's hot. It wasn't a scream, it was closer to a moan, hoarse and low, like someone murmuring in a fever dream. In my half-asleep state, I thought, oh, it's my mum saying something, as if I was back home in Osaka. But in my groggy state, I failed to remember that I now lived alone, miles away. My bed was pushed up against the right wall. To the left side, there was an open space. The mattress sat a bit higher than the floor, standard for Tokyo apartments. I rubbed my eyes and rolled over. And then I saw it. Something emerged from below, slowly, deliberately. A black mass. It slid up from the floor, smooth and silent, as if rising through the edge of the bed frame. It was completely black, no texture, no light. Reflection, like someone had colored the air with a marker. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's honestly how it looked. But when I looked closer, I could make out strands of what looked like dark hair. The shape had no face, it was just black, heavy, wrong. My chest clenched. A surge of terror hit me all at once. Shit, this is bad, I thought instinctively, and I shut my eyes tight. I kept whispering in my head, over and over, nope. That was a ghost, it had to be, it was definitely a ghost. I don't know how long I kept my eyes closed for, but it felt like forever. Eventually I forced myself to look again. Gone. The mass had vanished. I turned on the lights immediately, my heart still hammering in my chest. The clock said 2 a.m. Of course it did. The witching hour. And there was no way I was going back to sleep after that. I stayed up, lights on, until around 3 a.m. And then I finally drifted off, I guess from sheer exhaustion. The next day at work, I told some colleagues about what happened. One of them said, "Oh, you should check out that place in Oshimateru." Hi, Jay here. If you don't know, Oshimateru is a site that lists stigmatized properties across Japan. Accident sites, places where people ended things on their own terms, if you know what I mean. Fires, murders. Places people try not to talk about. I do a bit of a deep dive in this on the stigmatized properties videos if you're interested. Back to the story. I looked it up, and it wasn't a perfect match, but it was close. Same neighborhood, same block. There was a fire. A few years ago, yeah. There'd been a fire in that building. Across the way. Or maybe the one right next to it. The listing had said that a woman had been found unconscious. No mention whether or not she survived. But she had been pulled from the flames in critical condition. And that voice I heard, Atsui, Atsui, it matched exactly. A woman, moaning that she was hot, in pain, burning. I don't know why it happened in my room. I don't know if she died. Maybe she's still lingering. Maybe that was her last memory, looping in the dark. I haven't had any encounters since then. But if something happens this September, I'll be breaking my lease, trust me. And I'll beg my company to relocate me. People always think newer buildings are safe, that they're immune to hauntings, but places remember. Even if the walls are painted over, even if the floors are replaced. Sadly, memories burn deep. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge my belief in the inspiration behind tonight's story. It was based on The Wardrobe, a chilling tale by the renowned Japanese author, Ryo Hanmura. If you're interested in exploring more of his work, I highly recommend seeking out his collections. I'll leave his name in the description. He told me not to open it. Some things are better left alone, but curiosity doesn't let you sleep at night. And once you open a door like that, something always comes through. This happened a few years ago, back when I moved into an old apartment building in Tokyo. Rent was dirt cheap, and honestly, I should have known something was off from the beginning. The apartment was on the 3rd floor, small, musty, but manageable. What really stood out, though, was the giant old-fashioned wardrobe in the bedroom, a real antique. Dark wood, iron handles. It looked like it hadn't been moved in decades. And the weirdest part, get this, it was nailed shut. Yeah, actually nailed shut. Thick, rusted nails hammered straight through the doors, locking it up tight. There were even scratches around the handles, like someone had desperately tried to pull it open. I figured that the last tenant left it like that, or maybe was hiding a broken door or some junk in it. I don't know. I was tired, broken, lazy. I didn't really care, so I left it alone. At first. Nights were quiet, but something felt off about that bedroom, like the air was kind of heavy in there, and cold, even in summer. I started waking up in the middle of the night with my heart pounding. No dreams, just this overwhelming sense that something was watching me. I was really freaked out, and I even went to the doctors. One night I swear I heard a creaking sound too, like wood straining. I instantly turned on the light. I scanned the room, but I saw nothing. But the wardrobe, it looked different. Like the nails had been tugged on, like something inside had tried to push its way out. I started having these thoughts, irrational stuff like, what if something is inside? Not a thing, not junk, something alive. I told my friend about it, Yuji. He laughed at me, said it was probably mice or my imagination, and then he dared me to open it. Come on, man, what's the worst that could happen? So one night, stupid I know, I grabbed a hammer and I started pulling the nails out. Every single one came loose with this awful screech, like the wardrobe itself didn't want to be opened, like it was protesting. When I finally opened the doors, I saw that there was nothing inside. Just a dusty interior, no shelves, no hangers, just a cavern, just emptiness. But the moment those doors opened, something changed. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing something shuffling around inside the wardrobe, like a body shifting, cloth brushing against wood. I opened the doors again to check, but it was empty. But the smell, it was like rot, mold, old water, something decaying, and it got stronger every night. And then I started seeing things, reflections in the glass, shadows moving behind me, a pale hand reaching out from the corner of my eye, only to vanish when I turned my head. Once I woke up to the doors wide open, I knew I didn't leave them that way, and there were fingernail marks inside the wardrobe, deep ones, like something or someone had been trying to claw its way out. Oh, I tried to nail that thing shut again, but every morning the nails were on the floor, neatly lined up, like someone was saying, "No, you don't get to close this." The apartment grew colder. Lights flickered. I stopped sleeping altogether. And then one night, I was frozen in bed. I couldn't move. I couldn't even breathe. And standing next to the open wardrobe was a figure. A woman, pale, long black hair covering her face, wearing something old and tattered. Her arms were too long. Her fingers twisted. Her head slowly turned towards me. And even though I couldn't see her eyes, I knew she was looking at me. She raised one hand, slowly, reaching for me. And everything went black. I woke up the next morning, lying on the floor. The wardrobe was closed, but the nails were gone, completely gone. And I moved out that day. I couldn't take it anymore. I never went back. I never looked back. But sometimes, when I wake up in the middle of the night, and the air is cold, and the room is quiet, I feel like I can hear wood creaking, like a door slowly opening. And I wonder, maybe I didn't bring the wardrobe with me, but maybe something else came through. I guess there's a reason why some things are sealed shut. Not everything wants to be found. And once you invite it in, it never leaves. I used to live in this apartment. I won't say exactly where, but generally speaking, it was within walking distance of both Shinjuku and Shibuya. 2 train lines were accessible, and the station was less than a 5-minute walk. The neighborhood was quiet and residential, built on a gentle slope. My building was a 5-story apartment block, and I lived on the top floor. The view was incredible. You could see all the way out to Asakusa. It was a 2DK layout. It had huge windows that let in tons of sunlight. A pretty spacious balcony too. I could even access the rooftop whenever I wanted. At night, the view from up there felt like something out of a date spot. Tokyo was lit up below. And despite all that, the rent was about 50,000 yen cheaper than the market rate. I jumped on the contract immediately. Things started to get weird, less than a month after I moved in. I used one room as a bedroom, the other as a workspace and a living room. I mostly worked at night. I'd start in the evening, and before I knew it, the sun had gone down. By then, the glow of my monitor was the only light in the room. Well, whatever, there was no one else around. It didn't feel inconvenient. Actually, it probably saved power. So I kept working in the dim room, which probably wasn't great for the eyes, but I didn't really care. I don't know how much time passed, because I was totally absorbed in my work and I completely lost track. My shoulders were starting to ache though, so I stretched. Then I heard clack, clack, thud. Instantly my whole body broke out in goosebumps. It came from the bedroom, a room I knew for a fact was supposed to be empty. No way. No, I must have imagined it. It couldn't be anything else, because there's no unit next door, no upstairs neighbor. No one else could have made that noise. And this is a reinforced concrete building. You don't get that kind of sound bleeding through. So I started to think, maybe I'm so tired I'm hearing things. I turned on the lights and decided to give myself a little break. The door between the bedroom and the workroom was open, so light spilled in. But for some reason, I was scared to look. I kept telling myself it was just my imagination, but even now, I feel like I really did hear something. Then it hit me. In a city like this, maybe someone saw a darkened window and thought it was empty. A burglar? What if I walked in on them? And what if they killed me? What should I do? I sat there, paralyzed, running through all the possible scenarios. Before I knew it, a lot of time had actually passed, and eventually, I calmed down. The door was locked tight, I knew that, and I was on the 5th floor. Surely a burglar wouldn't go to the trouble to break into a place like this, right? I felt stupid for being so scared. I got myself worked up over nothing. So I looked at the clock, and it was past midnight. Oh yeah, tomorrow's Tuesday. I had a meeting first thing in the morning. My work was at a decent stopping point, so I just decided to call it a night and go to bed. Sometime later, I woke up suddenly. I don't know how long I had been asleep, but I looked at the clock by my pillow, and it was just after 2 a.m. Shit, I'm wide awake, and I have a meeting first thing. What if I can't get back to sleep? Sighing, I turned over, away from the wall, and back towards the room. Wait a second. What the hell was that? At the foot of my bed, I could have sworn I saw something hanging from the ceiling. Did a ceiling panel fall? No, wait. The ceiling's concrete. Nonetheless, there was something there. Something hanging down. I'm sure I saw it. Sweat just suddenly gushed out of me, and my heart was hammering, like it was trying to escape my chest. That sound earlier. Oh my God, was someone here? But I had checked it before I went to bed. Well, I felt I did a decent enough check. There was no one here. And this apartment was mostly empty. I had just moved in. So there was nowhere for anyone to hide. I mean, I didn't have a ton of furniture. I didn't leave any unopened boxes or anything like that. And what the hell was going on? I didn't want to look. I was too scared. I can't describe that fear. But I knew I couldn't stay like this, frozen. So I forced myself to peek from under the blanket. And of course, there was nothing there. So I really did imagine it. It was probably one of those hallucinations people get during sleep paralysis or something. Still, I was so shaken that I couldn't get back to sleep. I showed up to my meeting in the morning with presumably bloodshot eyes, and for a while after that, nothing weird happened. Except, there was this occasional fishy metallic smell that sometimes lingered around the apartment. Not constant, just now and then. Probably just the drains. And if it got any worse, I told myself I'd call the building management. A month passed. That Tuesday, I had another meeting with the same client. We had a standing appointment every final Tuesday of the month. I needed to prep all the materials the night before. I figured I'd be done by midnight, but my PC froze midway through, and everything got delayed. And I cursed myself for doing what I always do, leaving things to the last minute. Before I knew it, it was really getting late. Thinking about how rough that last meeting had been, running on no sleep made me even more anxious. I skipped dinner and buried myself in my work. After that creepy experience, though, I always kept the lights on at night. Clack, clack, thud. There was that sound again. There was no mistake this time. It definitely came from the bedroom. My hands started trembling. I couldn't concentrate. The lights were on, so I'm sure it couldn't be a burglar. But I knew someone was in there. I grabbed my phone and my keys and I ran. I tore down the stairs to the first floor. I called a friend who lived nearby, hands shaking. Hello? It's me. Look, I heard it again, that sound from the bedroom. What? Slow down. You sound freaked out. I don't get it. What sound? Just calm down a sec. I'm the only one at home and I heard it, just like before. I'm not imagining it. It happened last month too. Look, I don't want to freak you out, but could it be a burglar? Are you sure the door was locked? I'm sure. After last time, I always double check. No one could have got in. You don't sound good. Hang tight. I'm in Shinjuku. I can get a taxi and I can be at your place in 10 minutes, at best. Go wait at a convenience store or something. Oh, thank you. Please, hurry. I'm really freaked out. I hung up and I bolted to the nearest convenience store, still shaking. If no one had broken in, then what? What was that sound? A ghost? I've been so thorough about locking up and checking the place. That left me with no other explanation. My imagination then started running wild, and both times, this happened the night before that final Tuesday. Almost the exact same time. Why? What was the connection? I was half in tears by the time my friend called again to say she'd arrived. She came to the convenience store to meet me. I told her everything. I went on a complete rant. Seeing how shaken I was, she seemed to take it seriously. Even the convenience store clerk was giving me weird looks. We headed to a nearby family restaurant. I wanted to be in a normal setting again. So, you saw something hanging? Yeah, maybe I imagined it, but I think I saw something. You couldn't have been dreaming, could you? Well, maybe, but if it's happened twice now, I don't think it was nothing. So what? We should go check. Maybe I'll see what you saw. Something hanging down or whatever. Anyway, let's go look. come on. Just say that. If I see that thing again, I swear I'm gonna drop dead. But you can't avoid your place forever. If we go and there's nothing, you can write it off. I don't believe in ghosts. Maybe people like me can't see them. Please, this is serious. I still haven't even finished my presentation for tomorrow. Then you need to go home even more. You're not alone now. It's okay. If something happens, we can call the cops. We can straight up leave. Come on, you'll be fine. We have to find out what this is. Oh God, okay. Let's just go and get it over with. It was already past 1 a.m. But with my friend beside me, I started to calm down. There's no way it's real, I kept telling myself. It had to be a trick of the light or a dream. And this time I'd confirm it. Then I could finally relax. I was already chastising myself for being such a scaredy cat. I couldn't wait to be proven wrong. I'd left the lights on when I ran, and I'd locked the door. So we took the elevator to my floor, the 5th floor. Even my friend who had been playing it cool was looking slightly tense. That elevator ride felt long. When the elevator stopped, the doors slid open, and we saw no one in the landing area. Gulping, I slowly unlocked my door, and with a click, I pushed it open. The kitchen, lit by the light of the living room, was empty. Looks like there's no one here, but I heard the sound from the bedroom, remember? To look into the bedroom, we had to go through the living room. I stayed behind my friend, half hiding, using her as a shield. We moved slowly, carefully, avoiding making any kind of noise. We noted that the living room was empty, and the only sound was the hum of my PC's fan. Neither of us spoke. I was tense, but I could feel that my friend was too. Her arm was stiff as a board. Once we checked the bedroom, this would be all over. It'd just be a mistake. The moment she peeked in, my friend collapsed backwards, falling hard onto her bum. She couldn't even form words. She just made this sharp yelping sound, and then I knew there was something here. I couldn't look. I knew I just had to get out. We leaned on each other, stumbling out of the apartment. No way we were going to wait for the elevator. We flew down the emergency stairs, no idea where we were even running to. We just wanted to get away. Let's go to my place, my friend said. We flagged down a cab and headed to her apartment. It was hanging. So there was something. What was it? Did you see it clearly? Yeah, I saw it. No mistake. It was hanging. What was hanging? Look, you need to move. Right away. It was her. She's still in that room. Her? So, what, it's a person? Listen. Just listen to me. She was drenched in sweat. It was a woman. Her neck was stretched out, hanging there. She did it. She hanged herself. We got back to her place, and we both slept in the lounge, with the TV on, trying our best to distract ourselves from the events of the night. The next day, I headed into work knowing that I didn't have anything ready for my meeting. When my boss found out about it, I got pulled off the client account. I couldn't exactly give him a reason why I'd let down our customer. I couldn't say it was because of a ghost. So I told work I had the flu and took some time off. Later, me and my friend went to the building management. We were furious, and I intended on demanding my deposit and fees back. We told him what we saw. The rep didn't act surprised at all. He didn't even try to mock us. So I guess that's what prompted me to ask something that I thought only a few days ago might have been utterly ridiculous. Something happened in that unit, didn't it? A woman hanged herself in there, right? He replied in a subdued voice. Well, I suppose I owe you some sort of explanation. I guess the short answer is yes. About 2 years ago, a woman passed away there. The tenant before you said the same things. Strange things happening every Monday or something in a month. That's why they moved out too. Who was she? She was a woman, right? My friend pressed him. Yes, a woman. I believe she was a hairstylist or something. Well, I got my deposit back and some of the fees, so I was pretty glad. And when moving day came up, only 5 days later, a local lady came up to me. Unprompted, she told me about the hairstylist. She was in her 30s and she worked in a shop in Harajuku. One late Monday night, the last Monday of the month, she took her own life in that room. Apparently she was struggling. Younger stylists were rising fast and she wasn't getting any clients. Who knows how much of it's true or how much of it is embellishment by local rumors. But what we do know is she hung herself. And no one heard from her for a while. Her co-workers just thought that she quit her job without giving any notice, so they didn't follow up. Apparently her body was found a month later to the day. Complaints about the smell led to the discovery. This next part is just my personal imagination, so just bear with me, humor me. She must have come home late that night after work in the salon. The sound I heard was probably the thud of her body taking weight of the rope after she stepped off a chair and ended it all. And I can't unhear that now. I can almost see her, but I'm glad I didn't see what my friend saw. A neck bent, dangling in silence, and that smell. It all makes so much sense now. Her body left alone, slowly rotting. That's what I was smelling. She was still there. That's what she left behind. And that's why I made no hesitation in leaving at my earliest opportunity. This happened a few years ago, back when I was working security at a facility located in the quieter streets of Shinjuku, Tokyo. Not in the neon chaos around Kabukicho, or the bustle near the station's west exit, but the hidden parts, the older residential areas wedged between office buildings. Kind of place where the city becomes real quiet at night. Well, at least for Tokyo standards. Shinjuku during the day is all about noise and movement, suits hurrying between skyscrapers, tourists spilling out of electronic stores, buying junk, and department buildings. But at night the crowds thin out, and the silence gets a bit heavier. The stillness feels a bit unnatural. I always felt like it was like something is watching. It was around 2:30 a.m., one of those cold, brittle nights in late November. I was inside a dimly lit guard station, hunched over the surveillance monitors. I'd pulled dozens of night shifts by that point in my life, and they went by without much event. Usually nothing happened, but that night, something shifted. It started with the south gate. It wasn't our main entrance, just a small access gate locked after hours. I was absent-mindedly flipping through the camera feeds when I saw something odd. A black mass had appeared at the south gate. At first I assumed it was garbage, maybe something dumped illegally. It didn't look right. I squinted closer. It had a shape, human almost, like someone curled up on their side, like someone in the recovery position. Something was wrong though. The skin was burnt. It looked like a charred corpse. The torso crumpled, blackened completely, as if it had been pulled from a fire. It was just lying there, still, directly in front of the locked gate. I felt a knot twist in my gut and called over the sergeant. "Can you take a look at this?" I said. He peered at the screen. "The hell is that? A person? No, wait. Maybe not." Neither of us knew what to make of it, but something felt wrong. The air in the station had gotten colder, like the temperature had dropped a few degrees. We called in 2 officers already patrolling the premises. "Suspicious object spotted on the south gate camera. Go confirm, please." A few minutes passed, and I watched them approach the gate on the monitor. The figure was still there. But they didn't react. Not a glance. "We don't see anything," came their reply over the radio. "Where exactly should we be looking?" I leaned in closer to the screen. They were standing on it, their boots pressed right through it. As they did, the black mass shifted, sank slightly beneath them, like it had weight, like it was real. But to their eyes, they saw nothing. One of the guys next to me said that the monitor was bugging out, maybe, or the lens was dirty, but those don't explain what we were seeing. Because whatever it was, it reacted to pressure, and that wasn't a glitch. I didn't want to go, but I knew what was coming next. I was the junior. And just as I predicted, I heard my sergeant say, "You go check it out, in person." So I went, I threw on my jacket, and I stepped out into the cold. The alley was real quiet, and the buildings around were dark, save for the flickering light in one top-floor apartment across the way. I could hear every step I took growing closer and closer to what we saw on the camera. The wind carried the distant hum of the train line that cut through western Shinjuku. But otherwise it was dead. I met 2 patrol officers at the south gate. "It was right here," I said, pointing. We shone our flashlights at the ground. Nothing. Just bare concrete, cold, cracked, and utterly unremarkable. No scorch marks, no sign of anything ever being there. I just couldn't believe my eyes. Still, my chest felt tight. I kept looking over my shoulder. I had that awful, undeniable sense that something was behind us, or at least near us, watching. Silent. Back at the guard post, I reported in. Nothing found. But I kept watching that monitor. 30 minutes later, I switched cameras to do a standard check, and when I flipped back to the south gate, the thing was gone. It was just gone, like it had vanished. No one said anything for a long time, but we all felt it. That weird sense that something was unfinished, like we'd witnessed part of a story that we weren't going to know the ending of. Eventually, dawn came. I was briefing the next shift, trying to act normal, when someone burst in. "There's been a fire. The house next to the south gate." My stomach dropped. We switched on the local news, and after a while, we heard about what happened. It was a small segment with no photos, no reporter on the scene, just a line. Woman in her 50s found dead. She lived alone. The cause of death was smoke inhalation and burn injuries. And that was it. That was all the coverage of it. But it was right there, next to where we had seen the thing. I didn't say anything out loud, but my mind wouldn't let it go. Was that blackened figure her? Before it happened? Was it her ghost? Or was it some kind of harbinger? Was it showing us what was coming? Why did only the camera see it? And if it was trying to warn us, why couldn't it? To this day I can't shake that feeling that it wasn't a ghost. Well, not exactly. It was something else, right? Something bound to death. Maybe not a spirit of a person, but a shadow of the act itself. A trace, an imprint, a leftover echo of tragedy waiting to unfold. Since then, I've worked in other posts around Tokyo. I've pulled more late-night shifts than I can care to remember. But I've never forgotten that night in Shinjuku, because once, in the quiet shadows of that sleepless ward, I saw death appear in advance. And even though it never looked right into the camera, I knew it was watching. This is a story my aunt once told me, from when she was younger, back when she was living in Tokyo, in a quiet corner of Bunko Ward, not far from the university district. The neighborhood was mostly older buildings, narrow lanes, and tucked away apartments that were decades past their prime. She was sharing a small wooden apartment with a friend while they studied fashion. It was one of those traditional style places that are almost gone now. All creaky floorboards, paper-thin walls, and an old metal staircase bolted to the outside that clanged with every step. Their unit was on the second floor. My aunt and her roommate were always coming home late. They were both juggling part-time jobs and classes and assignments and projects. Most nights they didn't get back till well after midnight. And that's when they started noticing her, the woman downstairs. Her silhouette would appear from behind the frosted glass of the first floor apartment, always around the same time, a young woman with long hair tied into braids. Although they never really saw her face directly, just the shape, just the movement of the arms, the silhouette, her posture as she moved around the tiny kitchen, cooking. And she cooked every night. No matter how late they got home, she was always there, standing behind the glass, chopping something, stirring something, her outline dimly lit from behind. At first they thought nothing much of it. Maybe she worked night shifts. Maybe her partner did. But that wasn't that strange for Tokyo. But after a while it became part of the atmosphere. The clatter of their feet on metal stairs, and that shape moving softly behind the glass. A quiet neighbor, a harmless presence. It went on like that for about a year. They never saw her in the stairwell, never heard her voice, but they grew used to her. She was always there, cooking at midnight, like clockwork. Then one day my aunt and her roommate fell behind a little on the rent. Just a small oversight, they were scraping by after all. The landlord came by to collect. He was an older man, one of those hands-off types who didn't bother the tenants unless absolutely necessary. While he was there, my aunt casually mentioned the woman downstairs. She seems like a bit of a night owl too. We always see her cooking, even at like 2 or 3 in the morning. And at that, the landlord went pale. He stared at her for a moment, and then left without another word. He didn't even mention the rent. A few days went by, and he returned, and he told them the truth. There hadn't been anyone living in the first floor unit for years. He said that the last person to live there had been a woman in her 20s. She had gotten involved in a relationship with a married man. He would come by in the middle of the night when no one would see. She would cook for him. She was always waiting for him. But one night, he stopped coming, and she waited, and waited. And then sometime in the dead of night, she ended her life, documenting everything in a note. The landlord had kept the unit locked and unrented ever since. He quickly discovered that no one wanted to live there. And yet, almost every night, at the same time, the neighbors claimed to hear the distant, faint sound of clinking pans, or, like my aunt, sightings of shadows behind the glass. A young woman with braided hair, still cooking, still waiting. It was never menacing, never aggressive, just quietly, desperately sad. I like to think that she wasn't haunting the building out of anger. It was out of habit, grief, maybe even hope. Even now, when I visit that part of the Bunkyo ward, I find myself glancing at old apartments, especially the ones with frosted windows near the stairs. And I wonder if someone still stands there, behind the glass, long after midnight, still cooking and waiting for someone who's never gonna come. This is something that happened right after I was born. A strange event that still gets mentioned sometimes when my relatives talk about odd or unexplained things that have happened in the family. At the time, my parents were living in Ikegami, a neighborhood in Tokyo's Ota ward. not far from the famous Ikegami Honmonji Temple. It's an old part of the city, a place with narrow alleys, quiet apartments, and a hell of a lot of history. Our apartment was actually between the temple grounds and a large general hospital nearby. My mother was a first-time parent, still adjusting to life with a newborn, and my father traveled, often for work. And in those early days, she was constantly exhausted. On this particular day, though, my father had finally returned from a long business trip, and the three of us were at home, spending a rare, quiet evening together. At one point, my mum had handed me to my dad and said, "I need to use the bathroom. Can you watch Kay for a minute?" She was gone maybe 2-3 moments. But when she returned, she stopped dead in her tracks. "What the hell are you doing? I asked you to watch Kay. Why is he alone in there? You're lying down in the other room? This is ridiculous." Apparently she found me by myself in one room while my dad was lying on his side in the adjacent living room with the sliding door half open. "He's a baby, you can't leave him unattended like that. Anything could happen." My dad looked confused, completely thrown off, and after a pause he said quietly, "You didn't say anything to me. I was not asked to watch him." "Yes, I did. I told you I was going to the bathroom, and I asked you to keep an eye on him." "No, you didn't. I swear. I didn't hear you say anything." And they argued back and forth like that. One of them saying that they definitely asked, the other insisting that the other didn't. And then mid-argument, it happened. A black shadow passed between them, and both of them saw it, clearly. It moved slowly, not rushing or darting, but with a purpose. It glided across the room, headed straight towards the entrance, and without making a sound, it passed through the front door and vanished, and both of them went silent. They just stared at the door, and eventually my dad broke the silence and said, "You were talking to someone who wasn't there." And my mum frowned. "What do you mean? Are you saying that I wasn't talking to you? I was just talking to no one?" He nodded, and he told her that earlier she had been in the room with me, soothing me like usual. And suddenly she turned towards a spot in the room where no one was standing and started talking, murmuring some unintelligible words. Then she walked off towards the bathroom, and right after that, he thought he saw something dark move in the room I was in. He thought it was just his eyes playing tricks on him, until it reappeared. It walked right past the both of them during their argument. He hadn't wanted to say anything, not until that moment, and then my mum said something that I still think about. She told me, years later, "You know, the weird thing is, I don't remember who I was talking to. I do remember opening my mouth, I remember speaking, but I have no memory of a face or of a person." So who was she talking to? Was it just exhaustion from taking care of a newborn? A hallucination brought on by stress? Or did something else answer her when she called for help? Because the real question is, for those 2 or 3 minutes that she was gone, who was watching me? Who was in the room with me? And what was that black shadow that passed them by, that they both saw? We lived in an apartment situated between that major hospital and the historic temple, like I said, a place that sees a lot of comings and goings, endings and beginnings, and my mum sometimes wonders if spirits ever get lost in between. Maybe that shadow was just passing through, heading from the hospital to the temple, or the other way around. But me? Sometimes I see things, usually when I'm really tired. A black shape, just at the edge of my vision, flickering near doorways, slipping around corners. I guess the same way it may have moved that night. Maybe it left, out the door like my parents said, or maybe it never did. There are ghost stories that feel like urban legends, stories you retell for the scare. And then there are other stories, some so personal, so intimate, that they never leave you. This is one of the latter. Here we go. My family still talks about it sometimes, usually in hushed tones. We never quite figured out what to call it. Was it a blessing, a farewell, a haunting? This happened nearly 20 years ago, just after my grandmother passed away. A few nights later, she appeared to my aunt. Now, my aunt is the kind of woman who chose her own path in life. She never married. She was a dedicated career woman who lived alone in a modest apartment in Setagaya, Tokyo. She had lived there for years, in one of the quieter pockets near Sangenjaya, a peaceful neighborhood, full of low-rise buildings, cozy cafes, and aging residential blocks tucked away between narrow, sloping streets. Her apartment was simple, just a compact kitchen, a tatami room where she slept on a futon, and a narrow hallway that led straight from the bedroom to the entrance. She always left the entrance light on throughout the night, said that it made the apartment feel less lonely. And that night she fell asleep with the shoji door slightly open, something she never usually did. Maybe she was tired. Maybe something nudged her subconsciously. And in the middle of the night, she stirred. A faint light glowed near her feet. She thought, half asleep. I must have left the door cracked. It's just the entrance light. And it was, but the color was off. Instead of the warm amber hue, the light sleeping into her bedroom was pale, blue-white, kind of cold. She blinked, and then she saw her. Her body froze in place, caught in sleep paralysis. Her torso was half upright, frozen on the futon, unable to move. Standing at the end of the hallway, lit from behind by the entrance light, was her mother, my grandmother. Not as a ghostly blur or something abstract. She was there, clear as day, wearing the same clothes she often wore around the house. Her posture was calm, but there was something deeply emotional in her presence. She slowly began to walk forward. She moved down the hallway in complete silence, her figure sliding across the floor like air, stopping just in front of the futon. My aunt couldn't move, couldn't even speak. She began to cry. My grandmother bowed her head deeply. Her hands came together in a prayer-like gesture. She apologized over and over. She said that she was sorry for leaving first. She said that she was deeply worried about my grandfather, her husband. She kept repeating it, bowing, clasping her hands, asking my aunt to look after him. And through her frozen state, my aunt sobbed and replied, "It's okay, Mom. Don't worry, I'll take care of Dad. I'll handle everything." Her mother's expression softened. And then, as quietly as she'd come, she backed away. Her feet never made a sound. Her hands stayed pressed together. She returned to the entrance just under the glowing blue-white light. She stopped there for a moment, eyes closed, still praying, and then she disappeared. Not by vanishing in a flash or with any dramatic effect. She simply faded upward, as if the light itself was absorbing her, drawing her in, like she was being taken back. My aunt never forgot that night. She says it didn't feel like a haunting. It wasn't scary. It was just real heavy, sad. It was her mother saying goodbye, and making sure someone would be there to protect the ones she left behind. Even now, when I pass through Setagaya, especially on those cold winter nights, I think about how in death some bonds don't break, how love can leave an imprint, strong enough to bend the world, just long enough to make one last request. I guess sometimes it's easy for us all to focus on the negative, the horrid and things that frighten us. If there is a connection to the beyond, I prefer to believe that it's something similar to what my aunt saw.